Good afternoon slash early evening, everyone. My name is Kate Coley, and welcome to another Fringe Talkback. I am the Cincy Fringe 2020 Fringe twice, Talkback producer. And so every time you watch a Talkback, you'll be watching me interviewing our fabulous Fringe artists. And today I'm here with the creator of Forbidden City. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself, we'll get started with some questions, and audience questions, as always, are very encouraged.
My name's Martin Dockery. Hi.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us today.
Yeah.
So
Thanks
I'd
for
love
having me.
to jump in, and if you can tell us a little bit about what you think defines your work as a writer, as a storyteller. As we know from Forbidden City, you draw from being a world traveler, and this sort of autobiography. So what is it like to write from those personal experiences?
Well, you know, connecting to an audience is what we're all trying to do in theater. My particular method of doing that is standing in front of people, looking them in the eye, and telling them something true from my own experience. So storytelling, by any other name, um, uh, directly, directly creating some sort of energy in the room, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
That though I'm speaking about the particulars of my own experience, I am actually speaking to a communal emotional experience that
Right.
people, even if they're hearing my story, are actually hearing their own story and
Mhm.
hearing about times they've been in that situation. And it's made it very difficult during this whole pandemic
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
one cannot connect in that way, literally, to anyone because we're all stuck in our rooms. But
Mm-hmm.
in any case, I that's my answer to your question, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk a little bit more. I'd love to hear a little bit more about world travel because we know that some other shows are also inspired by travel experiences. I don't know, just talk a little
Yeah.
bit about where you've been, what you've learned.
Well, for me anyway, traveling, like activates the mind and activates one's memory in a keen and acute way. Uh, Life at home is wonderful, but every day is very similar to the next. And so they can all kind of blend together into one
Hmm.
big porridge. Uh, and then when you go travel somewhere strange, you remember things and you are, just where you're going to eat and sleep. These are puzzles to figure out. And the people you meet are all inherently strangers. And as such, uh, stories very easily can like bubble up from these experiences because a story literally is like about a moment that is out of the ordinary, that is different. It's
Hmm.
like my life is going here, and then all of a sudden this weird thing happened. And when
Right.
you travel, everything is strange in some degree. And so traveling just automatically lends itself to stories. And you are a stranger in a strange land. And everyone in the audience knows what it is to be a stranger in a strange land. Even if they haven't been to where you've been, they know what it is to be somewhere and to not understand how things work. Uh, and so those are just the experiences that stand out for me. I don't think I necessarily choose to tell stories about traveling, but I have trouble distinguishing like interesting moments within my homebound routine life
Right.
that as easily lend themselves to stories. Like in this
Right.
particular pandemic, everyone's like, oh my God, there's gonna be so many great stories that are gonna come out of this. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Every day is the same as every other day.
Yeah.
That itself will be the story, I suppose. Though what exactly happens in that story, I don't know.
Hmm.
It'll be interesting next year when we all get on stage to tell stories or tell stories with our friends at parties, whatever.
Right.
None of us have traveled anywhere. So they're all going to be stories
Right.
of being at home and
Yeah.
what sort of neuroses that led to in each of
Right,
us.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I love what you said about travel sort of heightening your observation and your experience, because as we see in Forbidden City, you know that there's going to be material there. As a writer, you know that travel is an area for material, and then something as mundane as the frustration of an audio guide not working is so amplified and exaggerated because there's also the being a stranger in a new place, and there's why don't I understand this thing that I usually understand or have rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even the sort of something we might not think that a story can come about when it's in a new place, when it's in another country, everything is bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that like Forbidden City, the humor of it also is because I'm the very stuff I just was saying about traveling, lending itself to stories and like interesting moments and puzzles to figure out.
Hmm.
Forbidden City is the expectation of that.
Right.
And then what do you do when that doesn't happen? That you travel to this exotic place in China and like you've already like, as I say in the show, like I'm going to do a show about this, and then
Yeah.
nothing really happens except for you kind of can't get started with the
Uh-huh.
experience because the thing that's this audio guide that's going to inform you about the place and give you ideas and like make
Hmm.
connections and itself will be telling you stories isn't working, and
Right.
as such your trip isn't working, the story generator isn't working, and that is, and then the whole story itself kind of falls apart
Right. Right.
even before it's begun.
Hmm.
That's
Right. And
sort of
that ties in so beautifully, I think, with the whole beginning of the show, which is all beginnings,
yeah.
and you talk about how you're bad at beginnings or there's always the one more thing to do. And so I think that parallels is really lovely. Um,
Well, thanks.
yeah, you're welcome. So
Yeah.
my next question is a little bit more about Concrete Drops Theater,
Hmm.
which is a company that you co-founded with Vanessa, who we heard about a lot in Forbidden
Yeah.
City. So tell us a little bit about the origin of this company, what your goals are, anything like that.
Well, in 2010, like I've been doing touring Fringe festivals as my main thing, as
Mm-hmm.
my only thing really, since 2009, and and then in 2010, I met Vanessa at a Fringe festival in London, Ontario, and we, it was just a 2 week festival, and then it ended and then like a month later, I was at a festival in Winnipeg, Canada,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, fly out here and let's hang out. And then so she did, and it was all very, you know, uh, seemed kind of crazy at the time too, and like I was staying, the people of the in the community will put you up in their house,
Mm-hmm.
what's called billeting, and so I was staying with this couple that I'd stayed with before, and I was like, I was like, can my friend come and stay here too? And they were like, sure. And I was like calling her my girlfriend because I felt it weird to be like, this is someone I just
A
met. So I was like,
random,
can my
yeah.
girlfriend? I was like, I'm saying this girlfriend come out and visit. And they're like, sure. And they're like, oh, she's not allergic to cats, is she? Because they had 10 cats. There were 10 cats.
Oh my
And I was like,
gosh.
I have no idea any much about her at all, but I have to pretend I do. And I was like, she's fine. Not allergic to cats. They're like, we're gonna do a big barbecue. She eats meat, right? I was like, yeah. She loves meat. I hope she. Uh, and then they kept like forgetting that they kept calling her my wife. They're like, so when your
Oh
wife
my
gets there, I was like,
gosh.
wait a minute. I thought I was exaggerating things by saying girlfriend. Anyway, she came to Winnipeg. We had another good 2 weeks. And then after that, I was like, hey, I wrote a play 18 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah, right. Right. So why don't we go and travel and do that? And then, and that was how our little theater company, the two of us, formed, and
Mm-hmm.
we've since now done like 4 original scripts and toured them together, and then a 5th one that Vanessa wasn't in but she directed that I
Okay.
wrote and did with another guy.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done 5 scripts together, and Vanessa's done her own solo show as well, and
Mm-hmm.
we just sort of we've been this little tiny little units trying to make our way in the big wide theater world, always referring to these plays as our like babies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
and then 2 years ago, we had a human baby.
Yes, you did.
We had a human baby. So this baby's really born out of the Fringe, little Fringe baby. And
Yeah.
she went on tour with us. This would have been her 3rd summer going on tour with us. She just turned
Mm-hmm.
2, so she was born 2 years ago. And then 6 weeks later, we left to go on Fringe tour and
Wow.
brought her with us all across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
This show, Forbidden City, was created with this baby who was 6 weeks old. Like, I had to walk around and try and put her to sleep, and had to keep my pinky in her mouth because that would soothe her, and she would, suck on it like a lot of babies do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have her like on a carrier in my front and my pinky in her mouth, mumbling this insanity that is Forbidden City as I was
Well,
walking around Toronto because I was doing a show at a Fringe festival there, and then
Uh-huh.
so anyway, to answer your question, Concrete Drops. We've now toured, like we've done Australia, we've gone to Edinburgh, we've done Canada many times and across the States, and we're just a little family circus, really,
Absolutely.
at this point. And you know, Concrete Drops is just a word that a name that came out of the place where we first like kissed.
Oh, well, that's very sweet.
That's
Yeah. Well, that's such a great story. And, I talk to a lot of other sort of like fringe power couples is how I like to refer to them
yeah,
privately.
sure.
Um,
Yeah.
we love our fringe power couples. Especially
We were in Cincinnati in 2015. I don't know if you
hmm
were part of the Fringe back then.
my first fringe was 2016.
Okay.
I was a fringe nexter. I was about to graduate high school.
Yeah.
And I directed my good friend Sawyer Pardo's play "You Are Here," which was really really fun. So that was my in.
Awesome.
And then I got to intern at the No the year after during that summer, which was really really
Okay.
Yeah.
So Vanessa and I we did our play called Moonlight After Midnight in 2015 at the Cincinnati Fringe.
Yes.
And this is going to be a big return.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wonderful. So as you've said, you've toured for a really long time on the Fringe circuit, even with a little tiny baby. And so, what is it like to bring shows back multiple times, and how do they change and evolve over time?
Well, I almost never have brought a show back to a Fringe where I've already done it.
Right.
So I haven't brought shows back to a place I've already done it, except for like a couple times here and there, but like basically not. But of course, I've done a show in many different Fringes, and then over several years of doing the show, but always at different Fringes. So, I mean, the great thing about like writing and touring and directing and producing and acting in your own show is that you have complete liberty to change it. That as it goes along, if you suddenly realize that like, oh, this is better and makes more sense, you just can do that. You just be like, now it is this. This show, Forbidden City, definitely has changed a lot from the first time I did it. Like I'd say quite a lot has changed from that first time I did it. And so it's that experience of like constantly learning what the show is and then being able to improve it on the spot or in between shows and festivals, and just being able to do a show a lot of times. Like, usually you do a show in the city you live in, and it's got not a very long run.
Right.
Generally speaking, you just do it a little bit. And usually when the show is closing, you feel like, oh, I'm just starting to enjoy this. And of course, touring a show on the Fringe Festival and really committing to it, you can do a show 50, 100 times. And the whole time, every time I do a show, I feel I've learned something. And either I have learned something or I have a terrible memory and I'm constantly learning the same thing. But even if that's the case, I feel like I'm always learning something about the show and about how to be a better performer.
Right. Well, and especially in this kind of format, in this solo format, you get so much immediate feedback from audience. And when you have just a bajillion audience members over the course of a year with one show, there's so much information to be taken from that kind of response.
Yeah. And just looking at people, and you get everything. You get people that don't like what you're doing. And of course, everyone's like, well, yeah, sure, that's hard, but it's really hard. It's like, it's because we're conditioned as human beings to you tell a story, and if someone is liking the story, if they're looking away, you just cut to the end and you seed your spot in the circle and you say, all right, so anyway, we made it just fine. So how are you doing? But you're on stage, you can't do that. So you have to it's a real head trip to just plow ahead with a story when you're looking right at people who either are falling asleep or actively are letting you know, this isn't good.
Yeah.
But then there are other people in the room who are giving you the exact opposite feedback. And to be able to absorb that and just carry on and because you can't I at least anyway can't ignore it. Like I like to believe that what I'm doing up there is
Mm-hmm.
like, there's a feedback loop that's created with the audience, that they are giving me energy and then I'm giving them energy back, and that we're all on this, like, this train together.
Right.
So, yeah, just doing a show so many times
Right.
allows you to really um, absorb that, for better or for worse, and
Mm-hmm.
well, no, for better, and uh, to really understand uh, how to have an honest rapport
Mm-hmm.
with an audience. You're not just saying memorized lines,
Right.
which generally I'm not. None of these shows I do are written down, so they're all
Wow.
created orally
Hmm.
for the purpose of, like, I don't want it to be absolutely memorized. I mean, the shows
Yeah.
are the same every time. I'm saying the
Right.
same stuff. I'm not like improvising or anything, but I like to try and keep it organic in the moment, and
Yeah.
be able to respond to whatever the energy is
Mm-hmm.
with the energy I give back.
Yeah. Especially if you have to do your writing while you're holding a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a crazy way to make a show. Yeah. Yeah, particularly as you're
Definitely.
walking around outside, because I have to go outside. We were, as I said, in Toronto at the Fringe,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just made the show very quickly. There just wasn't a lot of time, and I'd be, and then you pass people in the street, and you don't want to look crazy, but the baby at least afforded me a good prop. Like, I could pretend I was telling this baby this long story about an audio guide as she sucked on my finger and whatnot. Yeah.
A secret weapon and riding on the
Yeah.
streets. Awesome.
Just get a baby. So it makes it really, really easy.
Great tip for all of our
Yeah.
other fringe artists. Take note.
Yeah. How you do it. You
So,
know?
absolutely. So, you've
Yeah.
been a live performer for a really long time.
Hmm.
Live performance is different right now.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
exactly the kind of theater that we're doing and providing in the Fringe is super variable. We have straight recordings of live performances, we have things completely devised and created over Zoom and edited that way. Um, all sorts of things have been thrown into flux. So I'm curious about what you've been working on, thinking about since live performances have been canceled for most of 2020.
Yeah. It's well, first of all, I I have not wanted to, like, perform any of the shows I have done with an audience in the room in mind on something like, I don't know, Facebook Live or Zoom or whatever it is. Like, they weren't created for this medium, for this
Right.
exchange. They were created to have people in the room giving me, like, feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done some storytelling shows where I'm a storyteller on a lineup of other storytellers, and I have really not enjoyed them very much, because you don't know if you're connecting with anybody. You're
Right.
speaking into, like, a little tiny, like right I am right now, is a little green dot where the camera is on my computer screen, and you know, everybody's on mute. If you could see people's faces in their little boxes,
Mm-hmm.
you aren't getting much back. People are
Right.
kind of stone faced, alone in their room, and then the story is over, and and you don't know, did that mean anything? Like, what was the point?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there, like, live theater isn't going to be happening for a long time, and so I have to figure out, like, some way to still be able to, um, I don't know, connect with people and express myself, because that's what I enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
But coming up with something with this medium in mind that is created for uh, this interface where I'm
Yeah.
alone doing something, and then you are alone receiving it, even if
Mm-hmm.
there are other people alone receiving it at the same time.
Right.
So something that is, I don't know, it's more intimate, I guess, in that way,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't exactly yet know what that means.
Right.
Also, like, we're so still in the midst of this
Yeah.
strange thing that I haven't been able to wrap my head around it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know even, and things change so fast. Like, it's been the pandemic, and then all of a sudden last week it's, social justice, and next week it'll be I don't know. So like trying to come up with something that speaks to how I'm feeling and how other
Right.
people are feeling, and it is not out of date by the
Mm-hmm.
time you're
Right.
performing live.
Right.
All which is to say, I haven't yet figured that out. I was very happy that here at the Cincy Fringe, I could offer something that was recorded in front of a live
Yeah.
audience, which is how this show is supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
performed and received. If I just did this in front of the computer, I would feel so weird. I would not know whether anyone was listening. I would not know. It would not be good at all. I mean, this particular show is so much about reaching out to the audience and
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
trying to share some sense of frustration with them. And
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
so, I don't know. How about you? Have you been watching live theater that you've been able to connect with?
I have been challenged as well in
Mhm.
audience and creation.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm not saying it's not
yeah.
possible. Like, I'm not saying people
Yeah.
can't do it. Like, I just haven't myself been able to do it.
Right. Well, I think that what I've been learning from a lot of these interviews with people when I ask this question
Yeah.
is like no one's really sure. No one's really sure what this medium is because you want to make something that suits the medium, not shove live performance, live
Yeah.
audience feedback into these boxes, literally.
Yeah.
Um,
Literally. Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's a cool challenge. I think we've had some groups that have devised and edited entirely on Zoom,
Yeah. I
like
saw a Paul and
Mind
Erica
and
show, which was
yeah,
created very much with this medium in mind. And I
absolutely.
was like, yes, great. That I really enjoyed that, and I
Right.
thought they did a great job and made it for this particular thing. So
Right.
if anyone's listening to that was watch, go
Yeah, make
watch.
sure you've seen that. Make sure you watch
It's a good use of
it. Hmm.
this place that we're all confined to, our rooms.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how they and so many of the artists I've talked to have been so honest about like I don't know, you
Mm.
know. That uncertainty I think is we're used to a level of uncertainty in live theater in some ways, and this has really I think pushed all of us to reflect
Yeah.
or create or a little of both. It's a very
Yeah.
interesting time.
There's interesting stuff that will come out of this,
Yeah,
and hopefully I'll make something I feel good about. I don't know what that is, so
we'll
yeah.
see. We'll see.
Yeah. See, and at the same time, like, we're all forced to like take a break. And I'm
Mhm.
also trying to, well, accept that. And I guess at the same time, embrace that as much as I can and just be
Mhm.
like, okay, you have to take a break. You have to just,
Right.
and just relax about it. Like,
Mhm.
as much as you can. There's a lot of existential like angst I have over it. Like, what am I doing? What's the point of my life?
I'm about to graduate from college with a theater degree, so I'm right there with you.
When are you graduating?
On Saturday.
Are you? Oh, this is so awful for you. This is your senior year?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Hey, it's
Like you're in a
okay.
senior year to like have fun with all your friends and like have parties and like be together.
Eh,
Ugh.
eh. But it's okay because if I were still in school in Chicago right now, I wouldn't have been able to do this talk back gig.
Well, I'm glad that
been a
this
blessing.
talkback gig makes up for you not being able to party with your friends or do whatever senior like
Yeah.
projects you might have done. I don't know.
It's okay. I won't miss the graduation ceremony because I've been to a lot of those and they're very boring.
The actual ceremony itself, who cares?
It's terrible.
Right?
It's terrible.
It's just that idea of like, I don't know, just hanging out with friends and
yeah.
yeah.
Now we get to Zoom.
Now we get to Zoom.
Yep. Well, on that wonderful note,
Yeah.
the last thing I want to ask you is how we can support you and your work moving forward, where we can learn more about your work, read up about Concrete Drops, anything like that.
Well, I mean, I have a website. It's my name. So martindockery.com. I mean, you'll go to that website. It's not like there's a lot going on there, but but I spent time making it. There's a calendar of things that I'm doing when there are things that I'm doing, which there aren't so many things I'm doing right now. Concrete Drops also as concretedrops.com, also a thing. And so support watch Forbidden City. I'm also going to be in the Kansas City Fringe is in July. I will be doing a different show
Oh, great.
digitally on there
Awesome.
called Delirium. So one can tune into that in the way
Great.
one can tune into the Cincy Fringe and see a different storytelling show in July at the Kansas City Fringe. And I get, that's how just be good out there. Just be good to each other. I would like that.
Excellent. Well, we will do that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Martin. I really appreciate your time.
Kate, this has been great. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that this has made you not having your senior semester of college all worth it.
I think it has.
Great.
Thank you so much. All right, stay tuned, everyone. Keep watching Fringe shows and check out Talkbacks. They're all on cincyfringe.com and on our YouTube and our Facebook pages. Thanks,
and
everyone.
Everyone appreciated the wind chimes.
Definitely.
Make it peace. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.